Something went on between my husband and my sister. What do I do?
My head's a mess right now, so please excuse me if I'm all over the place. Yesterday morning, my husband quickly got a bag ready without me seeing, came to me and told me my sister sucked his and that he thought it would be best if he left for a while and gave me space. That was it. I've pretty much been left in the dark since. He seemed very stressed and upset. I just stood there, a little dumbfounded. My sister had been going through a very hard time in the last weeks and has spent a lot of time at ours, initially with her partner, but around a week ago, they started having issues, so she just came and unloaded their problems. She came over Sunday night and ended up staying over, but I didn't notice them slipping away together at any time. So far, the only communication I've had with my husband has been about our child. I've asked him over and over what's going on, and all he tells me is if he's trying to figure it out. What is there to figure out? I can't believe just like that everything I know is in tatters. Everything we have built together, everything we have, he's chosen to throw it all away. And to just tell me like that and leave, I'm totally heartbroken. I never in a million years saw this coming. I also thought me and my sister had a stronger relationship as well. The betrayal from her has me feeling so lost right now. I've seen many a horror story on here with infidelity and stupidity. Now I'm in this situation, I have absolutely no idea where I go from here. I know everyone will tell me to leave him, but it's more complicated when there's kids, houses, a business involved, and I don't even know what went on. No one will talk to me. The mental pictures are driving me insane. I'm not ready to talk to friends or family yet, so I'm asking Reddit. What the f do I do? Restarting life at 32 sounds like a nightmare. Update. I've since spoken to my sister. Husband came home that night as well. He packed a bag with more stuff and sat down with me and told me what happened. We have rentals and he was staying in one that's currently empty. A lot of you were right. My sister straight up assaulted him. This all happened on Sunday. She has been going through a lot the past month, so this has been a regular thing, and the past few weeks things were getting worse with her partner, so lots of venting. She said several times that she didn't want to go back home, and told us that before she left she also told her partner not to try and contact her because she was going out to get a break from him. My husband smokes a ton of cannabis, and this year starting buying the oil, I think this is making his own vaping cartridges, which I'll add is illegal in this country. He mixes various strengths for during the day and much stronger ones for the afternoon. The whole night he was on the strong one and passed out. We were all definitely feeling it, so I stopped and they continued well into the night. I said I'm getting ready to call it a night and everyone agreed. I got up to see the dogs. We have a litter of puppies that we have set up space in the garage. I was gone maybe 5 minutes, came back out to my husband on his own, and said my sister was in a bad way with the oil, so she went to bed. That's when we went to bed. He got up in the morning and left. My husband said this was when it happened. Out of nowhere, she grabbed the waist of his trousers, yanked them down and went to town. Went as far as to actually grab his hands as if to stop him going anywhere. It lasted maybe 5 seconds before he managed to get up. He asked her what the f she was doing. She just said sorry and went to bed.
I knew going into this I was probably going to get lied to, but fortunately we have security cameras all around the house and the whole ordeal was on camera. He pulled it up on the iPad and showed me. I didn't actually want to see the act, but he insisted. He's terrified that even with proof, he's still going to be labelled as if he's pursued this.
He thinks that I'm going to leave him regardless and that he deserves it. He's scared, he's lost his family and everything we have. My sister's partner left his last relationship due to infidelity, and my husband is ill over the fact that he feels responsible for it happening again. He wishes everyone could just forget it ever happened and go on like normal, and I've told him there's no way that's going to happen.
I finally got to talk to my sister. She hadn't blocked me, just ignored my calls and text. We texted her through my husband's phone, and while doing that I noticed she had actually texted him a few times since this happened. Literally just a chain of,
I'm so sorry I f***ed up. I'm so sorry I didn't know what happened. Still nothing to me. Anyway, she called, we put her on speaker and I asked her what happened, thinking she was going to lie, but she ended up saying the same thing my husband did. She couldn't give me a reason as to why. She cried the call, woe is me, we all hate her now, etc. She doesn't know why she done it. It was the biggest mistake of her life.
Apparently she called in sick for work and has just been spent the days driving around aimlessly, hoping a freak accident would take her out. I lost it. Went completely ape on her. My husband kept trying to defuse it, which got me more annoyed.
We had it out because I felt like he was defending her. His argument is that she's obviously not in a great place, and he doesn't want anyone in the position that they feel like they need to hurt themselves. This did not calm me down, and I'm not proud of it, but I did go on to send her several texts telling her exactly what I thought of her. We also told her to speak to her partner, because we plan to do so tomorrow, and it would be much better coming from her than from us. So that's pretty much where I'm at. An utter show. Me and my husband will get through it together. Sure, he knows that I'm on his side. We will suggest therapy for him, but ultimately it's his choice. I don't see my sister's partner sticking around. Our kids are very close and see each other a lot. I'm not really sure what will happen there, but it's not fair on the kids losing out on that relationship. We have had a lot to work out.
My daughter is treating my son like he's dead to her. My husband and I have a dearest daughter, 17, and a dearest son, 14. They have never been overly close siblings, but weren't sworn enemies either. Just two different kids with two different personalities, but as long as everyone was respectful, that was okay with me. When dearest daughter was 10, she was the victim of abuse by a family member that saw them convicted and go to jail. She was in intensive therapy for years, and we are so proud of the strong, confident, and intelligent young woman she is today. She has always, however, been very private about it. Besides our family, her lifelong best friend, her parents knew, and that was it. My son, however, knew about the abuse too. He flippantly told some friends about it 2 months ago. Before you know it, the whole school knew. My dearest daughter was devastated, to say the least. She's been back in counselling since, and has been coping as well as possible. This counselling has come at a financial, really tough time for us, and is obviously worth every penny. But the fact that we can't afford more counselling factors into the other parts of this. Dearest daughter blew up at dearest son when this first happened, and he saw the fallout of her coping with this firsthand. But since that night, where she found out he told people and word was going around, she hasn't spoken a word to him. She doesn't look at him when he enters a room, or react when he speaks directly to her, or about her, or anything else of the sort. Dearest son has tried daily to talk to her and apologise, begged, pleaded and cried, and it's always the same. She'll usually crack a book, look at her phone, put some AirPods in, and ignore him completely. She won't discuss it with me besides to say that he's dead to her, and she has no intention of ever seeing or speaking to him again when she moves out in 10 months, and she hasn't wavered even a bit in that sentiment since. I'm at complete loss. Dearest son is on total lockdown. He's lost his phone, video games, any sort of privilege or ability to do things with his friends. He essentially goes to school, comes home, does his homework, and goes to bed. And he knows we are devastated and beyond disappointed. I believe he's truly sorry and contrite. He's broken down crying and apologising to us more times than I can count, but I'm unsure how to proceed. We can't afford family counselling, and dearest daughter's personal counsellor won't talk to me about what she says to her about any of this, besides to say not to push her onto anything. I know she has every right to be furious, but at the same time I can't help but feel like it's also not mentally healthy for my son to be treated as though he literally doesn't exist in his home for the next year. I know it's a natural consequence, but it's a gut-wrenching one to see and be living with. Not to mention, as a mom, I don't want my kids to be permanently estranged. It breaks my heart. Update. Unfortunately, things have not gotten better. My son's grounding came to an end, and he got supervised access to his phone, video games and friends back. My daughter was livid with us about it, and no amount of explanation that continual punishment for a year wasn't an option made that understandable to her. I get that from her point of view, but it began to strain her relationship with me and her dad. She still ignored my son, and he still cried and was still depressed over it. She turned 18 in January. My son dipped into his savings to get her a necklace. I gave it to her and told her it was from him, and she opened it and she threw it away. Within a few days, she had moved out and into her best friend's parents' house without telling us she was going to. I invited her home for Easter, and she didn't come because her brother, who had nowhere else to go, would be there. I'm still at a loss. Her graduation is next week and we weren't formally invited by her. We basically got a, "I guess you can come," when I asked. My son obviously isn't invited, and he's still struggling mentally with all of this. Therapy and medication hasn't helped much, but our options of what we can afford are very limited. I never dreamed of having children estranged from each other, and a daughter who pulled away from us over her brother's idiotic mistake. I spent the day with my sister's best friend, and now she's telling my parents that I'm a homewrecker. So this all started when I, 22 female, had a date planned with a guy. He ended up not showing, and so naturally I texted the group chat about it. My sister is in this particular group chat. I'm guessing my sister, Sarah, 26, told her best friend Jay, 27, about it, because a few minutes later Jay texted me to ask if I'm okay. I told him yes, just a little disappointed since I was pretty excited to try that particular restaurant. He said that he would pick me up at noon the next day so we could go eat there. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he insisted, so I agreed, thinking nothing of it. Well, today, he took me out as promised, and while we were eating, Sarah FaceTimed Jay. When he didn't answer, she called again, and again. He answered the fourth call and asked her what was going on. She said that she was checking up on us and told me to call her later. Later ended up almost being 8 p.m. Jay and I ended up spending the rest of the day together, hunting down some collectible dolls we both like and trying different dessert spots along the way. On the way back to my apartment, Jay asked me to change the music on his phone. When I opened it, I saw my sister had called him about 30 times throughout the day and texted him across multiple different apps. Jay put his phone on Do Not Disturb after lunch, so it made sense why he didn't see those notifications. Once he dropped me off, I called my sister and asked her if everything was alright. She said yes and asked if I had forgotten to call her back sooner. I told her that I was out with Jay, so I didn't get the chance, and figured it could wait since she didn't call me. She hung up on me a few minutes later. I got a call from my mom. She sounded angry and told me that I should be ashamed of myself. I said sure, but why today? According to my mum, Sarah called her in tears, saying that she had caught Jay and I having sex in their apartment. I was so confused. I told my mum that I did not in fact have sex with Jay and that I didn't even know they lived together. I asked her to give me a minute and I called Jay, but he didn't answer. So now I'm here laying on my floor wondering what the hell is going on and putting off another conversation with my mum. Update. After I spoke with Jay, I called my mum again. She still sounded pissed, but this time I could hear my sister crying in the background and my dad yelling to get our asses over there. Our being Jay and I, presumably. Well, as I told my mother earlier, I didn't have Jay's ass and I don't like to drive at night, so I told them I would go in the morning. That also gave me time to gather any evidence I could prove my innocence. Jay even sent me a copy of his lease to prove that he and Sarah do not live together. I went to my parents alone because Jay has a job. As soon as I arrived, my parents started yelling at me. Just the usual stuff that I was disrespectful, but they never expected this from me. How dare you do this to your own sister?
You know she already has a hard time. Why make her life harder? My dad even called me a whore. That was fun. I kind of sat there and did the math on how much faster I would be able to finish my grad program and flee the country, or at least the state. I wasn't very tuned in until my mum told me that if Sarah lost her job because of me, that I would need to financially support her until she found another one. That's when I snapped and told them if they thought that I was going to do that, then they are as delusional as my sister. Missing one day of work because of a tantrum over something that didn't even happen was not going to get her fired. My dad said that Sarah had been missing work to make sure that Jay wasn't leaving work earlier to go and see me. I found out my sister also told them that Jay was missing a lot of work, so he wasn't taking enough home for the bills, so they had been sending her rent money for months. I told them it wasn't true and showed them that the lease Jay sent, where it clearly says the day the lease started and where it ends. It also had his address, which is not the same as Sarah's. My mum brought Sarah out of her room, where she had permanently been this entire time, and told her to explain herself. Sarah said that he probably got that other apartment so that he could be closer to me when he went on supposed business trips. First of all, Jay is a software developer. I don't know what business trips he would go on. Second, nice way to find out that my sister doesn't even know where I live, because Jay's apartment is almost an hour away from mine. I showed my parents that on Google Maps, and they finally started to believe me. Sarah started crying and calling me a liar. My dad told me that even if what I said was true, I shouldn't have been so hard on Sarah, and that as her sister, I should be helping her when she's having a rough time like this. I told him I wasn't a therapist, but if she ever decided to get help, I would pitch in. I left after that. There was nothing else I needed to say, and there was no point in waiting on an apology. My dad looked uncomfortable,
and my mum was too busy consoling my sister to notice me leaving.
I haven't talked to them since that. Update. Jay got a permanent restraining order against my sister. It took some months and a lot more harassment. As for why my sister was lying to get money from our parents, I couldn't tell you. I don't know where all the money was going, but I'm pretty sure that she lied because she didn't want them to be disappointed in her. A lot has happened, but to sum up, my sister was arrested for violating the restraining order and breaking into my home. My parents were furious with me after I didn't help bail her out. They blamed me for her getting arrested and getting fired from the 3 jobs she had since my last post. Since then, I have not had any contact with my mum or sister. My dad called me to wish me a happy new year, but that's about it.
Maid of honour kicked out of wedding on wedding day. Things escalate. I'm supposed to be the maid of honour in tonight for a wedding. My husband is the best man and we've been friends with the couple for a long time. The problem is, now I'm being kicked out for being black and my husband wants to step down as the best man because of it. And it's causing a whole thing. To clarify, it's important the bride is not racist in any way. She's just kind of dumb for refusing to listen. My skin colour is the issue, but not because she has a problem with it overall, but just because she didn't realise that my skin would make a dress look different on me than on the others. She has had this vision for her wedding forever, apparently. Her bridesmaids' dresses are nearly identical to her wedding dress in style except a different colour, and on the bridesmaids' dresses the detailing stops at the waist, and they are not laced up in the back. My dress as the maid of honour is an exact carbon copy of hers, just in the other colour. Here's where it gets to be a mess. She picks this colour for the company calls Morning Grey for her bridesmaid's dress. Morning Grey, for anyone wondering, is like a soft pastel grey that's about a shade out of white. On the other bridesmaids, the dress absolutely looks grey. A very soft, very ethereal grey, but a grey nonetheless. All the other bridesmaids are also white. I'm not only black, but as I've been to the beach for another wedding this year, I'm darker than I normally am. Against my skin, the dress undeniably looks white. Like the only way you can tell mine is actually grey is if I'm standing directly next to the bride, and the dresses are side by side, then you can see mine is slightly grey, and hers isn't. Now the bride ordered all of the dresses and picked the colour herself. I tried to tell her that she should order mine in a darker shade of grey because I've been down this road before, where I've been accused of wearing white at a wedding. She insisted that she had her cousin try it on and the colour was perfect and you could easily tell it was grey. I tried to explain to her that her cousin is the colour of printer paper and that's why it would look different on me, but she was unwilling to have her vision modified. Now she's at me because even though it's clear hanging with the other dresses, mine is the same colour as the other bridesmaids. She has decided the only option is to kick me out of the wedding so I don't upstage her. However, she wants me to give my dress to one of the other bridesmaids, which I said was fine as soon as she reimbursed me the money I paid for it. $350 compared to the rest of the bridesmaids who paid around $125. But then one of the bridesmaids promptly pointed out that none of them could wear my dress. I'm not huge, but I'm incredibly top heavy. I wear a 34H bra, which is part of why my dress was so much more expensive than the other bridesmaids. The other part being the extra detailing. So none of the other bridesmaids would be able to keep my dress up, even if the lacing was pulled as tight as it would go. So now she's decided that I've ruined her perfect wedding, screamed at me and told me not only am I not involved in the wedding, but she doesn't even want me to attend as a guest. Which pissed off my husband, A, because she was warned, and I even sent her photos of the dress I wore that was almost the same colour to a different wedding, and B, because he doesn't want to attend a wedding we travelled for without me, and he thinks it's bullshit since she insisted on the dress colour. Update. Things got ugly and the groom called everything off. I initially offered to dye the dress since I was the only person not getting my hair done. My hair has been damaged more than once by stylists who don't know how to handle the texture, so I am very limited in who I will let do it, and instead usually do it myself. The groom thought this was a great idea and even offered to pay for the stuff needed to dye it and let me use his parents' place to do it. While he went to go to talk to his parents though, my now ex nixed that because I would stand out even more. So I asked what she meant by stand out even more and a whole lot of truth came out. Apparently, she initially hadn't want me in the wedding at all, but her ex-fiance is one of the oldest and best friends me and my husband was of hers. That's why we introduced them to each other in the first place, because we thought that they would hit things off. Anyway, because my husband was the closest thing she had to a sibling, she really wanted him to be the man of honour at their wedding, and initially ex-groom said that was fine, and he would just have me as the best woman so things would look balanced and two men didn't have to walk down the aisle with her. She really didn't like that, so they decided to switch things up. No big deal. Except apparently it was because I'm the only person of colour in the whole wedding and one of the very few who will be at the wedding at all, and I'm going to stand out in every single picture. The groom is white, but he was adopted by a black couple and is quite close to both of his biological and adoptive parents, but if you ask who his parents are, he will always say the ones that raised him. Her theory was that his biological parents would be in the pictures and not his adoptive parents. Well, when the groom came back and heard this, he flipped out and then said she said the dumbest thing she could have said. Apparently it's not his fault, he had no control over who adopted him, and the picture should just be real family. Well, at that point the groom had heard enough, and told her that they were his real family, and he couldn't believe she would say that. She was not the person he thought she was, and he was not marrying her. She gets pissed and tells him he's being ridiculous, but his parents can be in some of the photos, and that they will take some without. Tells her again that there is no way, shape, or manner or form marrying her after what he had heard. In fact, he wants nothing to do with her. She gets upset and says, well, at least she's going to have fun at the reception. He reminds her that he and his parents paid for everything, including the reception, and she's not welcome. He will be informing the security of that. The bride runs off and tells her parents of what he's saying, and doing so, they come out guns blazing and all to confront him. But apparently, she didn't give them all the facts, because when he laid it out in front of them, they were appalled. Her father literally tore her a new one, talking about how she was not raised that way, and he couldn't believe that this was the person she had become. They apologised to the groom, offered to pay for half of the wedding, and they left with their daughter. So we spent the afternoon with the groom, several of the bridesmaids, and all of the groom's men, who were all equally shocked by her behaviour. I'd say we were consoling the groom, but we weren't. He was too busy ranting about dodging a bullet. Last night we went to the reception, partied until like 3 AM and had a great time. As for the dress, I have an event later this summer and I'm going to dye the dress and wear it for that. I left my mum at the altar. Here is the backstory. I'm a 20-year-old guy. My mum and dad divorced when I was 16. 2 months later my dad committed suicide. During the divorce no one would talk to me about the why. Afterwards it was overshadowed by my dad's. Because of all that happened, that period in my life is a blur, so I don't really remember when Joey started dating my mum and when he moved in, but it can't be that long after I lost my dad. Joey and I are cordial. I don't hate him, but I don't like him either. A year ago, Joey and my mum got engaged, and since her parents have already died, she wanted me to walk her down the aisle. 2 months ago, it would have been my dad's 40th birthday. Ever since his suicide, it's been a somber day for me. I was really close with my dad, so it still hits me. I took half a day off work because I needed some time for myself. I came home and I heard my mum talking to her sister in the kitchen. They didn't see me and they were talking about my dad. I'm not sure the precise wording, but the conversation went something like this. Aunt, Carl was a good husband and provider. I still don't get why you chose Joey. I was tired of him and Joey was excited. I do feel bad that he found out. I understand the divorce when he found out, but killing himself was a bit too far. Come on, you know you were his world. He moved here for you. His family disowned him for you. He worshipped the ground you walked on. He could have still have had me if he accepted that I was also seeing Joey. When I heard that, I quietly walked away. This is how I found out my parents divorced and my dad committed suicide because my mum was cheating with Joey. The same Joey who is marrying my mum, and my mum did not even have any remorse. I left home and went to my best friend Tessa's. She was the only one I could go to and cry. I told her everything and she let me stay the night. In the next 2 months I applied for and interviewed for a job on the other side of the country and I got accepted. I did everything with my mum preparing for her wedding. In the meantime, I quit my job and I made plans to move away. The company I applied to was arranging for housing for the first year. I arranged to fly down there and move in on the day of the wedding. In the meantime, I sent everything I needed to my new home. I sold my furniture on Facebook and the last days I stayed at Tessa's. I was making my own plans for the wedding and I came up with a few over-the-top plans, like having a Bluetooth speaker hidden in the venue playing a pre-recorded message somewhere during the wedding ceremony. But I went with a cheaper solution, giving the MC of the night an envelope with a note, and that he should read, and $100 to make sure he reads it regardless of the reactions. The note said, "Dear Mum, by now you have noticed I'm not there. I can't be a part of your big day since I've learned it is on top of the blood of my father. I know you and Dad divorced because of your affair with Joey, the same Joey that is standing beside you. I don't know what the trigger was, but this directly contributed in Dad's suicide. I can no longer be part of your life knowing this. You will never hear me or see me again. Goodbye forever." I could have written something more poetic, but I'm just not good at that. The wedding was Saturday. I called my mum in the morning hearing how excited she was, and then I left for the airport, leaving my phone on the table in the small apartment. No doubt they've already found it with a copy of the note in case the original plan somehow didn't work. I wish I could tell you what the reaction was at the wedding. I'm hoping everything went according to plan, but I have no way to confirm. My best friend is the only one that has my new contact information, and she wasn't invited to the wedding. I'm now sitting in my new apartment, drinking beer, browsing on Reddit, and tomorrow I'm going to start my new job, signing the last papers, getting my access badge, a tour of the company, etc. And Tuesday will be my first day on the job. Dealing with an entitled neighbour. We got a call to a house where there was a bariatric patient who had fallen. The patient was morbidly obese and weighed around 30 stone, 420 pounds. There are many reasons people get this size and I've never judged, only helped. No, the problem here was a really arrogant neighbour we had come across before, and boy was this chap a judgmental moron. The patient had a car and had a disabled parking permit. They also had a council designated disabled parking spot outside their home, which the neighbour kept parking in. There have been a number of letters from the council regarding this, and a number of parking fines just served to annoy this chap even more. On the day of the story, I took the call that the patient had fallen and we went to the house. Sure enough, the neighbour was not only parked in the disabled spot, but had parked a second car blocking access to the patient's driveway. I assessed the patient and suspected that they had broken a hip, so needed to go in. I sent my colleague round to the neighbour to ask them to move the cars, and when they came back, I was told the neighbour had just told my colleague to do one. No problem, time to get the message home. I radioed through to our control centre and asked for the fire service and police. We needed the fire service to help lift the guy and the police to do little parking control. The fire service were the first to arrive, and I spoke to the crew commander to let them know about the situation. A fireman went to the house to ask the neighbour to move their car and was told the same as my colleague. The message was relaying back and the watch commander just asked me one question. Is the patient's life at risk? I knew exactly where this was going, and it was time our thoughtless neighbour got the message. My answer was yes, there is equipment I need to get into the house and the driveway and it's blocking, preventing me to do so. The watch commander told the fire truck driver to move those vehicles. It was really satisfying to see both vehicles being pushed down the road by the fire service, and the look on the neighbour's face as they came out, spitting and screaming, was well worth seeing. His complaints to the police fell on deaf ears, and they were all aware of the history of the obstruction, and my clinical assessment that the patient's life was in danger was more than enough justification for the vehicles to be moved. I doubt it made our patient's life any easier, and sadly they died a few months later without leaving hospital, but it really did bring a smile to their face as they wheeled them out. I got revenge on my bully. In school, I was relentlessly bullied. 2 girls in particular had it out for me. I was shy, loved to read, didn't do the popular stuff, so I was the perfect victim. They'd literally tortured me by holding me down in the staircase where we were alone and sticking pinball pins into my arms, legs and feet. When I tried to tell the teachers, they said I fell onto them as they were lying on the floor or I did it myself. It didn't help that one of them was the daughter of one of the teachers at the school. Well, I finally got my revenge. I went to try out a new ice cream shop and long behold, one of the girls was serving ice cream. I have multiple allergies including milk and gluten, of which the ice cream shop claimed to be cautious. So I ordered gluten and dairy-free ice cream and set my phone camera up to film the area where the ice cream was prepared because I saw the girl had recognized me and was certain she tried to do something. And she did. I caught her on camera putting a spoonful of milk in the bottom of the bowl and crumbling the gluten-consistent wafers over everything, then camouflaging it with the last scoop of ice cream. She put it down in front of me and said, "I hope you enjoy it." I sweetly smiled at her and asked her if she could get the owner of the shop because I wanted to thank her for being so welcoming to the guests with allergies. You can guess what happened next. I showed the owner the video and told her that I'd like to press charges because in my country it is considered a criminal offence called inflicting bodily harm to serve someone an allergen when you know the person is allergic. The bully will never work anywhere where she'll come in contact with food again, and she'll have this on her criminal record for years. Now I have won my husband back, I am leaving him. I have secured an apartment for my baby and me, and I have put everything in order and prepared for custody. I have divided the money and transferred my share to a third account, and it will stay there until the divorce proceedings and the dividing of the assets. I found out that my husband was having an affair whilst I was postpartum. I thought that I would die because I love him, and it felt like my heart was broken into a million pieces. I knew that it was over, but my curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to know why. What was it she had that I didn't? Did he love her? I started reading his text and everything was there. He felt like he was alive again. He was happy and excited. She's single and childless, so she had all the time in the world to make him her priority. He felt seen and desired by her. I was confused, but even with life coming between us, he was always my love, and I made sure he knew that every day, and still it wasn't enough. I read thousands upon thousands of messages between them and I started being everything he fantasized about. In the beginning it felt weird and he was confused by it, but I just went on. Every time he had made plans with her, I found a way to make him stay, or I made sure that I sent him exhausted to her. The messages became less and less frequent, passion and excitement subsided. Soon answering her became more of a chore. The complaining started and him pulling away. He was happier at home and he couldn't wait to come home. He started texting me again during the day, the sweetest text of how he missed me. He was his old self back. One day, what I hoped and waited patiently for happened. He ended things with her. He told her that he loved me and that now everything was great again. Her services weren't needed, in other words. I felt relief and finally I could move on. Now I'm preparing for my divorce. He will get the papers the day I leave for my new life in my new apartment. I know I will get a lot of hate because I have neglected my husband and pushed him to seek solace in another woman's arms when I apparently could have given him what he sought for all along. And believe me, I will bear the guilt for the rest of my life. In my defense, I didn't do it intentionally. Our lives had just been altered drastically and I was trying to navigate the new and exciting existence. I was immersed in this new kind of happiness and I thought I was sharing with him. And I was trying to get to know my new body that I couldn't recognize anymore. A real scary feeling. But he could have come to me with his hurt. He could have talked to me about his suffering. We could have tried to make me understand, but he chose not to. He decided to deceive me, deceive us. He ruined our love, our future, and even our history. Nothing was or will be the same again. Update. He always loved April Fools. I feel a lot of guilt. I know what I'm doing is so cruel, but I guess it will just keep going on with my plans. There's no turning back now. And whenever I feel like I'm the bad guy, I just remember their conversations. No, I am not the villain here. I will end the marriage and I will tell him that it's because we weren't compatible anymore. Let him think whatever. I've decided maybe I shouldn't tell him that I know about her. Let him run back to her once he realises that I'm really gone. When my baby is older, we can tell him that we got an amicable divorce. No hurt or hard feelings. Two people who fell out of love. My boy doesn't need to know that his daddy broke up the family. My negligence cost my partner her life, and I'm about to lose everything. I am 35, male, and I've been married to Lisa, 28, female, for 3 years, together for 7. A year ago, I fell deeply in love with Amy, 24, and have been planning to end my marriage for her. I know it's terrible and not what my wife deserves, but we were the real thing. 2 weeks ago, she had an allergic reaction when we went getting food after work, but she used her EpiPen and seemed mostly okay afterwards. She usually gets checked at the hospital after a reaction, but I asked if I could take her home and she could get her friend to drive her there because my wife was expecting me back. All I know is that she had a secondary reaction that evening and died. I didn't even find out about it until the following Monday through a work email. It has been eating me up ever since, and I will never forgive myself for not sacrificing an hour of my time to possibly save her. I sent some childish messages to Amy when I didn't hear from her over the weekend because I thought she was angry and I didn't take her to hospital. I'm thankful she never saw them, and I'm ashamed that I assumed the worst. Our relationship was great, and the highs far outweigh the lows, but I've always hated being ignored and I lose my cool when it happens. It is not a regular occurrence, and I would have more than made it up to her. Yesterday at work, HR and legal were in the CEO's office all day, and my manager ended up cancelling our project meeting because he was in with them all afternoon. I was on edge, but an affair isn't exactly a corporate crisis, and I thought something would have already happened if anyone knew. I am now 99% certain it was about me. A few hours ago, I received a message from Amy's phone which said, "This is Amy's brother, Tom. I want you to know it was me." I tried to call, but it went straight to voicemail, and none of my messages have been delivered. I tried to call my manager more times than I should have, and he sent a message saying, "Please don't contact me until Monday morning. I can't discuss anything with you right now." So it looks like my universe is going to collapse. I'm going to be fired, and my wife will definitely find out why. All I can do is hope that Amy's brother only showed them the messages from that weekend, and they were bad enough. I have no family except my wife and daughter and nowhere to go. All of my friends are either people I've met through my wife or my colleagues. And on Monday, everything I've spent over a decade working towards disappears. I can't stop it. I can't talk to anyone about it. So here I am. I'm not expecting sympathy, but this is making my chest hurt and I need to get it out there. Update. I am suffering in the wake of my infidelity and unprofessional behaviour as I knew I would. I understand that this is an appropriate outcome and I am taking full accountability. I was suspended from work on Monday and I'll probably be fired sooner than I thought. I hope to be able to save money as HR built their case, but it looks like Amy's brother basically performed the entire investigation for them. After an excruciating 3-hour run through of everything they had, I spoke to the founder and he recommended the solicitor I am now using. The issue is that the company has to come down hard to protect themselves, because even though Amy's family doesn't have much chance of a claim, any suggestion of a cover-up could cause damage regardless. The founder still thinks my offer to pay them back will keep it out of court, and some more information has come to light, so it's not certain I won't be prosecuted, but I'm quietly hopeful. I can't afford to keep the solicitor if this goes on much further, especially with divorce on the horizon. Things are not good with my wife. I'm still committed to making this as easy as possible for her, but I had to draw a line when it came to my daughter. When I got home from being unceremoniously escorted out of my office, she already had a bag packed for me. She wouldn't let me wait at the house until my daughter was back. She wouldn't let me check I had everything I needed. She wouldn't let me take the car, and she didn't care that I had nowhere to go. I spent 2 nights in a hotel, then went back when she refused to let me see my little girl. She tried to stop me, but we own the house jointly, and it was my only option. My wife has family she could stay with, but she won't leave our daughter here, and she's absolutely not taking her. So we're at a stalemate right now. I'm keeping out of her way as best as I can, which I appreciate is the least I can do. The Amy situation is quite difficult to talk about, and a lot hasn't sunk in yet. It turns out that she didn't love me as much as I loved her, if at all. Her brother sent me images of her talking to her friends about me, and it's hard to believe they came from the same person I loved, but they are real. She and her friends had a good laugh about her manipulating me for money and a promotion. The role came with a big pay rise, and it looks like her plan was to treat it as free cash, then go work with one of her friends when it fell through. She knew I'd come under scrutiny whenever she messed up and assumed I'd keep stepping in to save her. And she was right. Obviously, I'm completely humiliated. I was planning to give up everything to build a life with her, and she was treating me like a joke the whole time. My feelings are complicated, so please don't feel entitled to any expansion on this, but I no longer feel guilt over her death. Ultimately, she was an adult who had a better understanding of our medical needs than I did. I still don't know what happened between us saying goodbye and her death, but whatever it was, it had nothing to do with me, and I'm sorry for her family's loss, but I bear no responsibility for her passing. After Amy's messages to her friends were passed around, a few people quietly reached out with words of support. I assumed everyone would write me off. Now it's clear that Amy was using me. They see me as a fool who had then lost it all. It's beyond humiliating, but I have learned I'd rather be pitied than despised, and it improves my legal position with work. There are small mercies, but I'll take them when I can. I remain filled with regret, and I will have learned many lessons by the time I get through this. I may have been deceived, but I'm a grown man who made my choices, and I take full responsibility for them. My wife says she does not owe me sex. And she is right, she does not owe me sex just because I am her husband, but I cannot take it anymore. Sexual incompatibility is hell. I have been busy drafting divorce documents with my lawyer this week. I believe it's the best if we separate because we become incompatible after some time. 4 years ago of marriage, both in early 30s, hormone tests came up normal. I begged her for marriage counselling with sex therapy. I did everything she pointed out. She came with other excuses. Since the beginning of the relationship, we will take turns handling laundry and dishes. For the other tasks, we have our own responsibilities for different rooms, tasks. It is not in sexual department as well. She does not seem to be into having non-sexual intimacy either recently. Countless discussions and nothing in the end. It was not like it was in the beginning, so I am not sure what happened. Marriage counselling and sex therapy did not work either. She seemed happy in the relationship and daily life, but I am not. We had sex only 2 times since the beginning of this year. She mentioned we should try having kids at the beginning of the week and I got annoyed. What am I? Something kept for only breeding? I will give her the divorce notice documents next Monday, and I am torn the relationship will end like that. I'll also leave the house as soon as possible. However, I am sure I am doing both of us a favour in the long run. We should separate before having kids. Update. She got the notice papers this Monday and was shocked. I explained her in detail and thoroughly why I came to that decision. I pointed out every previous discussion we had, how there was no efforts from her side, and we are simply incompatible. There was crying and arguments again. I also told her I would be going back to my hometown to settle in my premarital house. It was my mum's, but after she passed away, we shared it half and half with my sister, though I gave my share to my sister later. We had to move to our current city due to my wife's job. A lot happened that day. Next day, I started packing important things, and out of a sudden, my wife became the most sexual person on the planet. She came to me with lingerie, sex toys, costumes, and approached me. I'm going to be honest, I had a very hard time resisting, but rejecting her advances every time. She is the woman I love and desire after all, but I do not think staying in a marriage will be healthy for us either. I changed my passwords and handled other shared things. My sister will come next week to get me, and I believe I'll be staying at her place in our hometown for a while. At least until beds and furniture are delivered to the house. She's trying to reach out to me, but I reject her calls and do not read her texts. I may need a few days of peace and silence to get myself ready for everything upcoming. My partner wants to name our child after his recently deceased mother, and I want to leave him because of it. My partner lost his mother in March. Suddenly, she took her breathing tube out of her nose to blow it, and because she was half asleep, she forgot to put it back on, and she drifted away. When she found out, it was too late. It was peaceful, and honestly is the best way I would want to go, with nothing but peace and comfort. I found out I was pregnant 7 months prior. We had a name picked out. After her passing, however, he has decided to take it upon himself to change our child's name to hers. You know when a person gives a name such a bad taste in your mouth? That's what she did to this name. She wasn't a horrible person per se, but she wasn't the best. She had moments where she was wonderful, but most of the time she was... And please don't take this the wrong way, because I hate to talk so about the dead, but she was a monster-in-law. She wouldn't take care of herself. She would get taken to hospital, get attention from her children, get back into good health, get sent home, and when things returned to normal and the attention would suffice, she would do it all over again. She needed her children's sole attention, always. She needed to feel important, wanted, needed. It made me feel bad. and honestly broke my heart when she felt she needed to do this all the time to get any attention. Now she's gone, and as much as I loved her and miss her, and believe me, I do not want that name associated with our child. I don't want to think about her every time I talk to our child. I don't want the stigma I have towards that name forced onto our child. We have actually argued over it. I have tried to compromise by making it a middle name. I have tried to add a name to it so it's one whole name, but he won't budge. I have told him we have a name already. He won't budge. I'm at the point where I want to leave him because it's being forced onto me and I don't want it. I want our child to have a name that has nothing to do with anyone we know. Our son has his stepdad's name as a middle name. Our daughter has his grandma's name as a middle name, and our oldest has his stepdad's mother's name as a first name. I want this child to have something simplistic and beautiful. I don't want to be reminded of someone who was so toxic to herself it ate away at others. Can someone please give me some advice on what I can do? Please, I am at a loss. I honestly don't want to do this with him anymore because of how he's acting. I caved with every other child, but this name I cannot and will not cave in. Update. This whole time it's been confirmed a girl until 2 weeks ago. We are having a little boy. Every ultrasound has been wrong. We went to my final appointment and the high-risk doctor confirmed we all have a little boy due in 2 weeks. It broke my heart to see him shut down in the office. He actually left my appointment. He became distant, so I sat down with him and we had a talk after our babies were sleeping. I'm going to give our son his mother's surname as a middle name. It cheered him up, but I get it's not the same. Things have drastically calmed down since we got his mum's ashes back. I bought him a beautiful necklace urn for Father's Day, which has his mother's picture and a beautiful quote on it. He can have a little piece of her forever. He doesn't know about it yet, but I know he's going to love it. His therapy is going well, as is mine, and as is our daughter's. We are all healing very well. We are stronger than ever. My husband is now at RSO, and I hate that he's tanked my life with this. My husband, 25, and myself, 31, and I have been together for 5 years. Married for 2, and from outside we have the perfect life. We have the house, the yard, good jobs with benefits, 2 lovely pets, and a supportive circle of friends. We share the same hobbies and goals, and I swore this was the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Recently he, after disappearing for 2 days, shows up and tells me he got arrested for trying to meet up with a minor, but it turned out to be a sting, and suddenly everything went wrong. I all but lost my mind worrying for him, and then he destroys my world with this revelation. The trial went on for a whole year, and has culminated in that now he has to register for life as a SO. Throughout it all, he has been withholding information from me, and all the information I found out has been through searching the computer and police reports and piecing things together myself. He has been begging for forgiveness non-stop, and his family is also trying to get me to forgive him. My family has been supporting me as best they can from my home country, but they want to pretend that he's not going to have to permanently register with another state if we were to move. Can't be left unattended with a minor, and this shame will hang over our heads forever. I can only be grateful that we live in California, so there wasn't a public notification to our neighbours, but I'm absolutely mortified to go outside anymore. Unfortunately for me, I'm an immigrant and therefore a green card holder, and so my ability to stay in the country is tied to him. I love my life here, my job, my friends. I feel as if I've made a real home here. I also resent him for destroying the life we built as we were discussing children, and now I can't fathom the thought of having children with him. I worked through all my emotions and I'm ready for a divorce. And I really want to be able to build a life here for myself as it stands. It's very unlikely, so I've been beating myself up that all this work I've put into making this home for us has been destroyed, and I've basically spent the last few nights mourning. I haven't spoken to any of my friends here, and I honestly don't know what to do. I'm thinking about quitting my job. I can't work outside California, and just packing up as he can no longer sponsor me once my card expires, and I'll be living here illegally. Update. I think what he did was absolutely monstrous and disgusting, and if there was some way for him to spend his life in jail, I'd happily support it. Unfortunately for us all, he was able to waive jail time. I met with the immigration lawyer for a consultation, And like many of you said, he reiterated that his action should not affect my ability to apply for my 10-year GC. I have a 2-year. It was very short, and the lawyer let me know that the hurdle was passed, and if I chose to divorce him or not, I would still be fine. Unfortunately, I can only apply 3 months before this GC expires, which would be at the end of October. He then quoted his fees to me, which, phew, I have some saving to do. I'm still reaching out or searching for cheaper avenues to see if I can be represented, but it seems like this will be waiting a saving game, which, to be honest, I'm not sure I can do. Obviously, I'd love to be able to divorce him immediately, but I'm still trying to set up a consult with a divorce family lawyer here to ensure I know all my rights and avenues. Said partner has also forbade me from notifying my neighbours with children, as he is attempting to file an appeal and supposedly his info will be taken down off the site if there's an ongoing case. His parents have maintained their stance and have not spoken to me since the deliberation, which was hurtful, but my tears have dried up. Needless to say, I've moved into the guest room and have ensured that all my documents are together and safe. I want to ensure I have my GC before I serve the divorce papers, but I also want to ensure that I have somewhere to go. Savings for an apartment. If he chooses to kick me out immediately, his name is on the mortgage, not mine, and he makes 3 times what I do. His dad has made it very clear that he 10,000% supports his son, and says something to the effect of, "Your pain is real, but your options are not. So work it out or go on a plane," which was the most sobering message and honestly a catalyst into. I was told that notifying my friends and neighbours was stupid, and I overestimated their need to know or care. To have this life-altering situation boil down to a binary definitely showed me that they really never cared about how I felt during this, and is a sure sign that this is normal for them, in a sense. He has been treating me as if I committed the crime, and his poor son was just an innocent bystander, which makes me wonder what has been said. But at this point, I don't care anymore. His son has taken the opposite stance and is so apologetic and regretful, and he has now realised what he had in the relationship, and if he was to lose me, he wouldn't know what to do, etc, etc. And it's so funny how much someone can change right before your eyes. I love this man with every atom, every fibre of my being, and now I'm disgusted every time he so much looks in my direction. I do not speak to him unless it's necessary, and it's almost as if we don't even live together. A girl can dream, right? I'm not sure if this qualifies as a true update, but unlike the first post, I have some hope. I hope I will be able to fully remove myself from the situation and rebuild what has been a beautiful life outside of this. I want to save for the lawyer, an apartment, and also plan to make therapy a regular to deal with all the unused stress, trauma, insomnia this has caused me, and will, unless I'm threatened with legal action, which I don't think they can do. Let my friends, neighbours know in secret to allow them to decide for themselves. I am less afraid of losing my friends, as I know I would have liked the knowledge to make their choice if I were in their shoes. My common law husband is in Dubai, and his side piece showed up at my door with their baby. Am I the arsehole for kicking her out even though she is basically homeless? My husband and I, myself 40 and him 41, have been together for 10 years, and I consider them to be very loving and happy, but apparently not for him, since he has had a side piece, obviously. I make furniture and make around €1 million a year. My husband is a teacher. It goes without saying that I provide for us. I don't know what he does with his salary. We live way below our means, however, because we are both minimalist, but we have a big house, nice cars, and lots of art. Everything is mine. Apparently he met his side piece, 25, under false pretenses, and told her that he was legally married, so he owned half of my company and everything else I own. When she got pregnant, he started spending his salary on her. I wasn't allowed because I didn't know what he did with his money. Now he's in Dubai on vacation, and her lease on her apartment expired, so she tried showing up at my door with her baby. She told me she was his girlfriend and that he was getting a divorce, so she might as well live in the house, and I could live in the hotel because I could afford it. She didn't have any money or home. She literally refused to step out, so I called the police and locked myself in the greenhouse. When the police came, she was literally unpacking the child's clothes in the living area. They escorted her out. I was very shaken. My husband's mother thought I was an asshole for kicking out a little baby on the street. That was her only grandson. I used and abused my money and power to control everything around me. But honestly, teachers make 60k a year, so if I found out later he gave her his salary, I can't understand why she would be so homeless and destitute. She had big designer bags, designer stroller, and these Van Cleef Arpels jewellery when she showed up to my home, but now I'm the asshole? Update: I will never see him again. It is over. He is back from his trip. Probably wasn't expecting to start his summer vacation this way. My lawyer has already contacted him about what he's owed. He will be transported to his mother's apartment. Whatever more he thinks he is owed, he can sue me, and I'll be ready, and I hope he can afford my lawyers when he loses whatever lawsuit he plans to file. Apparently the apartment that his girlfriend lost was his. He was sending her money for the rent, but she spent it on Prada instead. He swears that the baby isn't his, and that he's going to demand a paternity test. Like it would make any difference. Maybe for the baby, yes. I hope to God that the child isn't his, however, so maybe there is still a small chance for that baby to have a better future and more loving parents. I am moving in with my parents. Right now I am in a hotel, but I have no desire to be in that house again with all the memories. I am selling it, and while I find a new home and sell this one, I will just live with my family. The girlfriend has contacted me a few times via social media because she needs to talk. She wants proof that we aren't married because he told her that we are married. I don't do delusion, so I just blocked her. She has tried to contact me via her friends and mine, so now everyone knows the truth without me needing to make an announcement. Our relationship is long term and we live together. We have separate economy. We have no rights to each other's property or estate. We don't even inherit each other without a will. However, anything we purchase during the time we were living together falls under joint estate and is divided equally no matter whoever the purchaser is. I have no problem dividing these assets in half. I have bought our house and some of my expensive art during the time we have been partners. It would have been joint assets if we didn't have cohabitation agreements in place around these expensive purchases. He has no rights to them. Unlike prenups, they are not as easy to contest because he is not legally married to me. Under different circumstances, I would probably have given him more than what he was going to get now, because I am like that in general. If he had ended things, if he had told me he wanted out and that he didn't love me anymore, because I know that relationships end and people fall out of love, he could have respected me enough to give me that at least, but he didn't. So I will literally be counting spoons and napkins, and he will not get a dime over what he is owed.